Hello, that's me and my ADHD. As you can see today, I've got a little bit on the wall behind me because we're going to be talking about the diagnosis process, as a lot of people find it quite daunting, the thought of, you know, where do you go, who do you turn to, what can they even do if you are diagnosed. So we're just going to concentrate on the 9 steps, well 8, but I like to add in 9th, happily ever after and all that for some of us maybe. So step 1, this is, in my opinion, is the most important step. You must write down a list of your symptoms and traits that you feel like you display. The ones that impact your life in a way that you feel like they don't impact other people's lives, because that is the difference between being diagnosed and not being diagnosed. The fact that apparently everybody is all on this spectrum. Yes, I suppose speaking from a scientific, neurological point of view, we are all on a spectrum somewhere, but it's how those things impact us as to whether or not we are diagnosed. So first of all, spend a good 2-3 evenings going over the different things. You know, Google it if you have to. Write down bullet points, or if in the middle of the night, if you're about to go to sleep and all of a sudden an idea pops up in your head, quickly write it in your phone or text it to a friend, I don't know. Step 2, make an appointment with your GP. That is your first port of call. Most GPs don't have a great knowledge on autism and ADHD. I mean, mine's very good. She was very understanding. She didn't claim to be a specialist or professional in the area, but understood that I was struggling. So was happy to refer me to a specialist, which brings us on to step 3, the appointment itself. Now, I took my own bullet points and notes to keep for myself, but I also took a letter that I wanted the GP to send off to the specialist on my behalf. So the GP will also write their own letter when they refer you, saying why they think that you need to be referred. But I also feel like it's good to have your own personal reference, because at the end of the day, it's all about you, without being too narcissistic. So, yeah. Take some notes, explain to your GP how you feel like these things are impacting your daily life, and why it's so important now, as an adult, you feel like you need to get a diagnosis. Because yes, there are some of us that are on the spectrum and not diagnosed, and they don't feel like they need to seek diagnosis because they're dealing with it in their own way. They've found their own peace and way of doing things. Good for them. If you want to give me any tips, send me a message. I'm always up for tips and advice. I love learning. So let's move on to step 4. At this point, your GP should now offer to refer you to the specialist, and they send off their letter, send off your letter, and then you wait. And when I say you wait, I think I waited, I think it was about 8 months to get through the questionnaires, which is step 5, the paperwork. And there was a lot of questionnaires, and it wasn't just me that had to fill them out. It was also someone that's known me since I was a child, which is quite difficult in my circumstance, but won't go into that. I managed it, obviously, because I've got a diagnosis. But yeah, once you've filled out those questionnaires and send them back, and it's another waiting process. I don't think it took as long between the questionnaires and getting an assessment. I think that was only a couple of months, that one. But step 6 is make or break. So they will go through, the specialist will have a look through the questionnaires that have been filled out by yourself and your loved one, and on the back of those answers, before they've even met you personally, they will decide if you fit the criteria or you don't. And if you don't, then you are back to square one, I'm afraid. But if you do, then we move on to step 7. We move on to the assessments. Now, I didn't know this until I Googled it myself, but apparently some people get their assessments done all in one day. one big long assessment between 4 and 6 hours long. I didn't do it that way, so I can't give you any advice on that way. My way was done with 1 hour assessments, and I think there was maybe 5 or 6 of them, different assessments with different specialists and different members of the ADHD and autism team, which are all lovely and amazing, by the way. Hi Amanda, if you ever see this, I love you. Moving on. So I had lots of assessments over several months, which finally all came to a conclusion in November of last year, when I had my final assessment done, and they decided that it was Asperger's with a combination of ADHD. So they told me that at the end of my assessment, at the last one, the one where they made their minds up, and that's what they've decided with all of these different paperworks and questions that they've asked. But you don't get the paperwork through straight away. You sometimes have to wait a few months. I was fairly lucky and got mine through quite quick in a couple of weeks. But yeah, some people have had to chase it up and, you know, give them a call and emails and things so that they can actually prove to people that they are diagnosed. Because for some reason, when people mention Asperger's or ADHD, one of the first things that comes out of their mouth is, "Oh, you're actually diagnosed?" And it's a little bit belittling. But that's for another video. So yeah, step 9, happy ever after. You've got an answer. You've been through the assessments. You've done everything that you can do. The NHS has done everything that they can possibly do. And if it turns out that you're not autistic or ADHD, well then you've got an answer. You know to go down a different road now. You know it's not that, and to try something else. And for those of you who are diagnosed with Asperger's and ADHD, or either or, then yeah, it's an interesting road afterwards, because for the ADHD you can sometimes be offered medication if you're suitable. Me personally, the one that I'm most interested in is the CBT, Cognitive Behavioural Therapy, I think it is. That's specific for those with autism and Asperger's. And I really want to get started on that so that I can help share it with you guys as well. So thanks very much. And the next video will be on ADHD and the different types of ADHD. I promise I will get round to that. I'm going to stop procrastinating. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.